Hey everyone, welcome to the next tutorial. In this one I decided what I'm going to do is layer our background. So right now we have the blackish bluishness of space, all the stars, and then our enemy and players. But what I want to do is have the background and then some slow moving planets in the background that are always random, and then kind of the stars will go over that, and then the player and enemies. So I went ahead and just went on Google Images and found I just typed in like 16-bit planet art or something, and I found a bunch of planets someone made. So there are these 5 right here. And the goal is to get them to kind of scroll slowly, like we're real far away from them, and kind of scale them to a random size every time, so they all kind of look random. And we're actually just going to add this to our background layer, and we're gonna pretty much do it just like the stars. I'm kind of gonna put a limit to how many are gonna be on the screen at once, though, because I don't want there to be like 30 planets at all times. I just want it to be like, maybe 2 or 3 and at any given time. I don't know exactly how I'm gonna do it yet, but we'll figure it out when we get there. So what I want to do here is let's define what a planet is. So actually, we're gonna make a new Python file called planet. And import Pygame, import constants as C. Define a planet, inherit from the, sprite class. You guys have seen me do this a million times already. All right, then we'll load our, we'll actually do this. We need to, I got 5 different images I want to use for a planet. So we'll do self.planet 01 equals pygame.image.load, and it's planet 01.png. Again, you can use whatever images you want. Converting alpha because there's transparency. And I kind of want to talk about something real quick. So you see how I'm doing this, where I have 5 frames of animation and I'm loading them into 5 lines of code right here. You might be thinking, well, some games, man, there's 1,000 frames of animation. Do you really need 1,000 frames? Like for instance, Street Fighter 3. If you've ever actually looked at the frames of animation for a single character, it's like 2,000 frames per character in that game. So clearly you wouldn't use this method right here. What they do is you actually load a sprite sheet, and you write a function that knows how to go to that sprite sheet and cut out each frame and automatically put it in a list for you. And we're going to be doing that in the advanced tutorial. Again, that's just another layer of complexity you don't need to worry about right now. Doing it this way is really easy to understand, but just know later we're actually all in like one line of code. You can just pass an entire sprite sheet in and it automatically makes a list of the entire animation in one variable. But we're not doing that right now. So there's all 5 images, and let's change each one of these. All right, and then again, we'll throw those into a list. I'll just call it planets. So it equals a list. Well, actually, image underscore planets. And then we'll pass all those into the list. All right, and what I want to do, I need to get number of planets, because I'm going to end up picking a random index out of this list. So it equals length. What's the best way to do this? Naming convention wise, we'll do a planet index. I'll call it that. It makes more sense. No, not planet index. We'll just do number of planets for right now. And that's going to equal the length of self.image of planets. And let's go ahead and import random. So import random self.image index equals random.randrange, and it'll be between 0 and the number of planets. But remember, we have to subtract 1 from this because it can possibly return a number that's right out of range. So we got to subtract 1 from it. Then we're going to do self.image equals self.image of the planets and pass in the image index into it. Doing all this right here, store all the images in a list. We're getting the length of that list, and we're grabbing a random planet from that list, and we're assigning it to the image variable. Then we, like always, we need to get the rect object from it. So self.image.get rect. Self.rect.x equals random.randRange, because we're wanting it to come down from a random x coordinate between 0 and c.display width minus self.image.width. Cool. Self.rect.y is going to equal it's just going to equal 0 minus self.rect.height. So again, it doesn't just pop at the top of the screen. It's kind of, it starts a little bit off screen. Now what I want to do is do self.max on screen planets, because I don't want there to be like 20 planets on the screen. I'm just going to set it like 3. That way there's only ever like 3 planets on the screen at any time. We also need a timer that, well, you know what? The max on-screen planets doesn't need to be controlled by the planet itself. That would need to be part of the thing that's going to be generating the planets, which is going to be our background. So it's going to have the max number of planets. An individual planet itself doesn't need to worry about that. But I do need my velocity x equals 0 and velocity y equals random.randRange. And how fast are they going to be moving? We'll say between 0 and, or not 0, but 1 and 3 frames per second. They're real slow. All right, and we'll write our update method. And as always, self.rect.x plus equals self.velocity.x, and same with y. All right, so that should be that on the planet itself. We may have to come back to this in a second. But yeah, I think we're good on the planet itself. And now we'll go to the background class we're pretty much going to generate it just like we did the stars, but we're going to do it with planets and add one extra rule of, hey, there can only be 3 planets at a time on the screen, no more. So yeah, let's get started on that. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here is one of the variables I noticed I just called timer, but since we have like stars and planets we're going to be working in within this background class, I'm going to kind of define what this timer's for. So I'm going to call it star timer. So everywhere I put timer before, I'm just going to add star timer to it, because we're going to end up having a planet timer as well. All right, first let's make sure I didn't break anything. Yeah, stars are still working. All right, everything's working. Okay, so I have a star timer. Remember, I need that max number, or we'll just call it max planets, and it equals 3. I need to import the planet object so we can use them. So from planet import planet. And we'll need to make a separate group for the planet. So self.planets equals pygame.sprite.group. And we work it pretty much just like we did with the stars right here. So let's do self.planets. What I call the group? I call it stars and planets. So self.planets.update. Now what we're going to do is, remember, we need to, just like the stars here, we need to check if they go off screen. So for planet and self.planets, if planet.rect.y is greater than the display height, and self.planets.remove planet. That'll kill it when it goes off screen. So it's not taking up memory. I also need to make a variable up here. We have max planets, but I need to make one called current number of planets. So current num planets, and it's equals 0. And every time we spawn a planet, we'll increment that by 1. and every time we kill a planet and remove it, we'll decrement it. So we kill it right here, and we're going to do self.current number of planets minus equals 1. All right, so that handles if they go off screen. So now we need to work with the timer. So we got star timer. So we got star timer is random between 1 and 10. So let's make a planet timer random dot rand range. Now I don't want it to spawn these too often. I want them to kind of be rare. So let's say between 5. No, I want it to be like 7 seconds. So 7 times 60. What is that? 7 times 60. So between like 420 and 12 seconds. So 12 times 60 is 720. Yeah, so between 7 seconds and 12 seconds, we're gonna generate a planet. All right, so let's go right here, and we'll do if self.planet timer equals 0. We'll make a new planet. New planet equals a planet object. Then self.planets.add. We're going to access the planet group, which I just called planets, and we're going to add the new planet to it. And then we're going to reset that planet timer back to, and I'm kind of hard coding these, but whatever, it'll work. We could really make variables for these, like minimum timer, maximum timer, but it's fine. This object doesn't have, it's not that big, so it's easy to work with. That's the benefit of a lot of tutorials I see online. They kind of put everything in main, and granted, it is easier, I guess, to kind of teach people just throwing everything in one file, but it ends up getting so, I get so lost when you have 3,000 lines of code in one file. I like separating every object into its own separate file. So that's why I do it that way. So self.planet timer, we recreate that. Random.rand range, and pass that in there. So we reset the timer after we make a new planet. But one thing we need to check, if the planet timer equals 0, we need to check if it already has the maximum amount of planets. So if self.current number of planets is greater than or equal to, it should never be greater or equal to them, but I'm just going to put that just in case, is greater than or equal to the max amount of planets, pass, else make a planet. So we'll put all that in there. You could also just type not right here. So if not self.current number of planets is greater than or equal to self max planet, but just a little bit more clear for my brain. Either way will work. And when we create a planet right here, we need to increment the self.current number of planets plus equals 1. There you go. So now it adds 1 to the current number of planets, and then when the planet leaves, it takes it away. This should work. Let me just check something real quick. Stars. Okay, that's the stars. Oh, we're not drawing it to, we actually need to do this right here at the end of all this. We have to draw the planet to the background image, just like we drew the stars to the background image. So I'm going to do, I want them to be before the stars. So self.planets.draw self.image. And the image is the actual background, the blue background that we're drawing these planets to. And we also need to decrement, let's actually move this up here. No, we need to put it after we fill it with the color. So yeah, it fills it with blue or bluish black, draws the planet, draws all the stars. And self.planet timer minus equals 1. And did we ever check that up here? Yeah, if the planet timer is equal to 0. Did we ever set the planet timer back? Yeah, we did. Okay, sorry. This was a lot of code to write, so this actually should all work. Should work. I'm not seeing any planets. Oh, it tried to make one and ran into an issue. So planet.py line 23. Let's see what's going on. Planet.py line 23. A random number. Oh, I meant to do self.rect.width. If you do image, you have to do get width. The image has a function called get width that will return the width, but doing a function takes more processing power than just accessing an attribute. If you're accessing a variable or an attribute, it's just going to a memory location to grab that value. Whereas if you do a function, there's a bunch of clock cycles the processor has to take to get that information. So if you do rect.width, it's just accessing a value real quick. All right, let's hope it works. And it was between 7 and 12 seconds. So so there's my image. So it's working. I kind of want them to go slower. Yeah, I want them to go slower, but the image, it looks like the way I saved them, it didn't actually save transparency. I think in Photoshop when I actually made the image, yeah, I didn't make it save transparency. So let me just double check that. So I did convert alpha. Let me just check these images. Planet. I think I have them right here. So let me just pull this up real quick. Export. Yeah, I did the. Well, I'm not Photoshop genius, but I did quick export as ping, and I've never used that before. I don't know if that maybe just didn't get rid of the transparency, or oh, so apparently the image I downloaded, these square checkerboards that are usually like representative of the transparent background, that's actually part of the image. So yeah, it's working, but what I have to do, I'm gonna slow. Let's go back to Pygame. And let me adjust these so we can see them a bit quicker. We'll go to background.py, and I'm gonna change this to like, I don't know, between 60 and 120. We'll just do every 1 to 2 seconds. That way we can see them pretty quick. Yeah, all right, so I got a couple things I need to do. I'm gonna go, I need to actually cut the background out of these images. The other thing I wanna do is actually randomly scale the images so they're always a different size. And I also wanna make them slower. And we're gonna do that all in the next video, because making them slower is actually gonna be a little tricky, and I'll show you why right here, give you a preview of what we're gonna do. If you look, I did velocity Y between 1 and 3 pixels per frame. The issue with that is that's already really slow, but you saw how fast they were moving, and that's because even if I do 1 pixel per frame, that's 60 pixels per second. So how do you go below 1 pixel? You would think you can just do like 0.5, but you actually can't, because what's going to happen, this rec.y cannot be a floating point number. So we need to convert it to an integer. It's not that hard, but we're going to do it in the next video. I'm going to do that along with making them have random sizes, and then we'll also do I'll cut the backgrounds out of them so they don't have that checkerboard background. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Hey guys, quick update on this video. I just realized there's a bug. Currently the way the code works now, there can only ever be 3 planets on the screen, and when they all go away, it never generates any more planets. The reason that is because at the end of every update, we're subtracting 1 from the planet timer, and if there's 3 planets on the screen, it's still going to keep subtracting 1 from the timer, but it never gets into the section where it actually resets the timer above 0. So it never resets it between 60 and 120 right here. And because of that, it can actually go in the negative while there are 3 planets on the screen. And since it goes in the negative when a planet leaves the screen and it's allowed to make another one, this if statement never gets checked because it's never going to hit 0 because it went into the negative. So it just keeps going deeper and deeper in the negative, but never actually hits 0. So to fix that, all I'm going to do is just do if it's less than or equal to 0. That way when it goes off the screen, it'll just make a planet. I just wanted to let you guys know I just noticed that bug. But yeah, have a good one.